Good afternoon. Welcome back to the MED 2020 Mediterranean Dialogues. I'm Viviana Mazza. I'm a journalist at Corriere della Sera newspaper in Milan. With me is Ugo Tramballi, senior advisor in ISPI. And we have the pleasure today to talk with Charbel Wehbi. He's a Lebanese politician and he's the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We want to welcome you, Minister Wehbi.
Thank you.
I will start with the first question. We've seen the great tragedy of the explosion in the Beirut port last summer, with 200 people dead and incredible damage, and that was supposed to be it's something that shocked everybody, right? Even people who don't follow Lebanon. And it was supposed to be a turning point for many people, like a watershed moment. Aid has been promised to Lebanon, but international politicians are asking for reforms. Now, with the US administration, there hasn't been always an easy relationship. And I wanted to ask you, now that the US has elected a new president, Joe Biden, after this transition, do you expect changes? Do you expect something different for Lebanon and for the region? And are there fears that in this transition, things can get worse before they get better?
Well, first, thank you for hosting me today, and let me start with the very bad explosion which happened in the port of Beirut on August 4th. This was really a big tragedy and unexpected one, and it makes a lot of damage and lots of victims and destruction in a huge residential area. We are, frankly, we are expecting the judicial court to finish investigation, and we are searching for whoever is responsible behind this kind of explosion and a tragic explosion to be transferred to justice. Lebanese economy is in a very difficult situation, and on top of that, we had this kind of destruction. Regarding the U.S. new administration, if we can just say one thing, that the reforms should be before the friendly countries ask for reforms. The Lebanese people is asking for reforms. The Lebanese people, and especially the young generation, have a very loud voice since October 17, 2019, requesting a changement in the whole political system of Lebanon, requesting a progress in the way Lebanese government is acting and is working. I can assure you that this kind of request is very clearly heard by us. On l'a bien entendu. And the Lebanese political leaders are still in a transition period of what used to be before and what it should be now and after. Lebanon is in a transitional period of time, a very dangerous one, a very unprecedented one, and a very historic position. The United States of America is traditionally a close friend to Lebanon, based on several issues. Human relations between Lebanon and the United States population are very long, since the 19th century, and cultural relations. Lebanon is very well influenced by the US culture, and it doesn't, we don't neglect the American University of Beirut, which was established by an American missionary who came in the 19th century. And it was, and it is still till now, one of the best universities in the Middle East. And of course, politically, Lebanon was always considered as a pro-American economic system, a pro-American political system, and a pro-American and westernized society. We enjoyed a lot of friendly and deep relations between the United States and Lebanon. What we face today is a tough decision by the United States administration regarding regarding Iran. Iran is a Middle Eastern country. Iran is not an Arab country. Lebanon is a Middle Eastern country, and Lebanon is an Arab country. Here is a struggle between how we can manage to keep our good relations and excellent relations with the United States and not break our relations with a friendly country called Iran. Iran is a very close friend to Lebanon. Saudi Arabia is a brother country to Lebanon. Arab states are brother states toward Lebanon, and Lebanon is suffering today. I will not compare it to some European countries during 60 years ago or 70 years, but it have some deep difficulties. And in politics, we have to walk under the rain without being wet by the water. So the United States is a very close friend. The United States is assisting the Lebanese army since decades. The United States is helping Lebanon through the United Nations and UNIFIL, Italy also. The United States is playing now, since few weeks, a major role in mediating our indirect consultation with negotiations with Israel regarding our water borders between Lebanon and Israel. And this is a very important trust we have in the United States. And we trust the role of neutral mediator, and knowing and having in mind how deep is the relation between Israel and the United States. So based on the trust we have in the United States, we accept the mediation and the role of a neutral mediation. And it's still 4 sessions of negotiations. We are expecting more and more discussion between Lebanon and Israel with the United States and United Nations presence. So this is the position we feel actually. Whenever there is changement in the US administration, we don't expect a changement toward Lebanon. We expect some amelioration of the l'approche. Comment on dit l'approche? Of the approach. The US administration under Trump presidency could be different and may be different than the US approach under Biden presidency, especially toward 2 things. The first one, which is the most essential, is the Israeli-Arab conflict and the Palestinian problem. The second one is how to deal with Iran, especially Iranian nuclear program, when President Trump pulled out the US from the agreement. And I hope that President Biden will revise and make a new approach toward this issue. It will make the Middle East more quiet. It will not put a solution to the problems, but resolving those solutions could be on a cold table, not on a hot table. This is the difference.
Thank you.
شكرا. أهلا وسهلا Minister Wehbi. Lebanon is facing Lebanon is facing several crises now, but exactly for this reason, why Saad Hariri is still struggling to form a government 1 month after it has been appointed for this. And just to follow up what you were saying regarding the United States and Iran, some say that Lebanon will have a government only when Biden will engage in negotiation with Iran. What do you think about that?
No. If you allow me first, thank you for asking this question. I cannot think that this is a real issue. The relations between US and Iran have nothing to do with the government formation in Lebanon. Don't go too far. It's since 1 month Saad Hariri is trying to form a government. It should be fast enough, but certain countries where you have a difficult equilibrium between the society of this country. Take Belgium, for example. It took maybe more than 2 years without government. I am not claiming that Lebanon will have 2 years without government, but forming a government in a constitutional system like Lebanese system, it is always based on consensus. The parliament is formed by several groups and several, I will say it knowing that in Europe you are not anymore talking about this issue based on religious equilibrium. We still have in Lebanon the Muslim side, the Christian side, the Shia, the Sunni, the Druze, the Maronite, the Orthodox. This is our nature. This is our society. And I hope that one day Lebanon will arrive to the level of secular system like you have in Europe. Maybe it will be a big progress from our side.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Minister Wehbi, another question is about Europe's role, right? European countries, you talked about the importance of the United States, but European countries want to help Lebanon's recovery, and yet they are saying you first have to implement these reforms. At the same time, earlier I asked you about the transition period. Before the new administration. In this transition period, many things are happening. And you just talked about Iran. There has been an attack in Iran. Everything that happens in the region, Lebanon is always brought in. So I'm wondering if, when you are in such a position, how do you see, first, Europe's role, and second, the solution of problems like with Iran? Can it start from Iran or should it start from inside Lebanon,
I didn't catch your question about the solution from Iran. What do you mean by the solutions from Iran?
For instance, nowadays, after Iran was attacked and their scientists was killed, right? Some people say that a response to Iran could come from Hezbollah. A response from Iran to its enemies could come from Hezbollah. So
who said that? Who said that?
Experts online and things like that.
Look, what's your name? Viviana.
Yes.
Viviana. I cannot really I cannot accept or understand or agree that the reply from Iran is able to defend itself. This is a huge country, regional, huge country. So let them defend themselves. I will not talk on Iran, on behalf of Iran. And Hezbollah is not, as some countries are saying, it could be playing a role in Lebanon and regionally, but Hezbollah is also fought by Lebanese population, citizen. We are trying all the best to keep Lebanon safe from inside. We don't want to break our unity, our social fabric, our connection between Lebanese and Lebanese. We are several religions and several parties, and every person or every group in Lebanon have in certain affinity, some orientation toward a regional or international side. So Iran is able to defend itself, and it will not be from Lebanon to defend Iran. This is not a role to be taken in consideration. We never talk about that, and we never think about that. Second, regarding what's happening in the region, I can consider till now, Lebanon is in better situation than other regional countries who are being destroyed and attacked, and civil war and fight inside those countries. I don't want to name countries, but there is several Arab countries who have more difficult situation than Lebanon. We want to keep Lebanon on the Middle East and on the European role. Our role is very important. Our role is a country where you can see this mosaic of sharing the power. Sharing the power between Christians and Muslims, you don't see it in any other country in the Middle East. There is Christians in Iraq, there is Christians in Egypt, there is Christians in Israel, there is Christians in Jordan, but they are not sharing the power. There is Muslims in Israel, there is Muslims in Jordan, there is Muslims in Syria. They are not sharing the power. The power is completely a partnership in Lebanon. And this is very beautiful, and it's very difficult at the same time. To make a government in Lebanon with this culture, sometimes it's easy, but the majority, la plupart du temps, the majority of the time, it's very complicated and it takes time. But we will see the new government very soon, inshallah.
Thank you.
Minister Wehbi.
Yes.
I never seen in my life such a will to help Lebanon, and as a personally, since I'm happy because Lebanon is on my heart for my personal and professional reasons. But the name of the game is help us to help you. I mean, since if Lebanon doesn't make the reforms, it's impossible to make the help that Lebanon needs. I give you an example, for instance. The stumbling block to reform is the Article 151 regarding the banking secrecy. With this, no forensic audit and of the central bank, of the Lebanese central bank. No audit, no Cedres $11 billion of aid package, and no IMF rescue. So how can we get out from this cul-de-sac?
I agree with you. The audit and especially the forensic audit is a necessity, and it is primordial. It's our priority. The President of the Republic is making this issue one of his major target, and unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't succeed. He went to the parliament and he addressed a letter to the parliament members, and they adopted. And they said that it's not only le secret bancaire, the secret of the bank secrecy is only not only for the central bank, for all ministers and for all government officers and elected entities like municipalities. And so in Lebanon, it is a must to ameliorate, to change, to make a progress, and this is our responsibility. If it doesn't start today, it should start yesterday, it should start tomorrow. I believe in that. I agree with you totally. Changement is a must. We have to do something, and we are not asking for support and help to reconstruct and to build an economy of Lebanon if there is no reforms and no l'impunité. It should not be run away from the punishment. The punishment should be applied, and we need really a full capacity justice to persecute and punish all responsibles. There is il n'y a pas un plafond, there is no roof on top of anybody.
Minister Wehbi, I'm just looking at the news wires regarding COVID-19 in Lebanon, and I saw that the health ministry in Lebanon just said that the cases are rising and beds won't be enough. And so there is, you've had a 2-week lockdown that ended this week. Can you tell us about the situation and what effects does it have on the crisis that you described earlier?
I just came from the meeting of the ministerial committee regarding COVID-19. It is a very alarming issue. When we closed the 2 weeks, the country, the number of positive tests in the population was getting alarming, very high. And the problem was not the number, which is high. The problem is that the capacity of our hospitals was 100% full. So we couldn't find one single bed, ICU bed, for COVID-19 disease. And at that case, it was mandatory to close the country and to tell the population that it is becoming very urgent. We need to relieve a little the hospitals, the medical sector, and to increase the number of ICU beds and ventilators for COVID-19. Now, starting last weekend, we had a new report that there is now more than 100 ICU beds available. Can you imagine in the whole country where there is 4 or 5 million Lebanese and more than 2 million refugees, there is only 100 ICU beds, 100 in all Lebanon, not only in Beirut. And we understand that the people cannot stay at home all the time because the government is not able to pay and to give them compensation. So the pressure on the government is let the people work. They have to feed their families. They have to gain some money, to earn money, to buy food. So we started since Monday a new opening circulation and working time. I hope that the population will respect. The only obligation is to put the mask, this one. We ask them to put it even inside the car. When there is family members, they have to use it. They have to put it all the time. And the security policemen are now controlling the circulation if they are putting this medical mask on their face. COVID-19 is an issue. The capacity of our hospitals is becoming a little critical, but let's hope that it will be easier for us before Christmas time and before the New Year. After Christmas and the New Year, we will make a new assessment about how big is the damage or how better is the improvement. I hope it will be improved, not damaged.
Shukran, Minister. Lebanon needs dramatically to develop its gas fields on the Mediterranean.
Yes.
But why the encouraging maritime border negotiation with Israel has been stopped? It's just for a moment, or?
No, your question is very important. It's not Lebanon who asked to stop these negotiations. It came from the United States and from Israel. They didn't ask to stop. They said to postpone it for a limited period of time. We cannot say no. We agree. Okay, they want it to be postponed 1 week, 2 weeks. I don't know for how long. But yesterday, the U.S. negotiator, the ambassador Durocher, came. He met the president, and the meeting was completely excellent. President of the Republic is always looking a very long strategic objectives. When we enter negotiations with our enemy, it's not like you enter negotiations with a neighbor country where you have relations. We are without relations with this country. So our negotiations are a little more delicate, and it takes a little more time because we talk to the Americans and to the UN. Israel talk to the Americans and the UN, and they convey the messages to this side and to the other side. Delineating the maritime border is a very, very important issue to us. And we are in the negotiations on a very serious and very solid decision that Lebanon want to arrive. We are not maneuvering. It's not a maneuver. It is a strategic interest for Lebanon, for the East Mediterranean, and for Europe also, to start exploring gas and oil from our strategic and economic zone water.
Thank you, Minister. That our time is running out. It definitely is over. I want to conclude only with your hope, or the hope you mentioned before, to see very soon a democratic Lebanon, not more sectarian as the civil war or as in the moment of critics. We understand that what happened, as many Lebanese experts used to say, vous avez vécu une guerre pour les autres. You were fighting several times a war made by others. So hoping that Lebanon will reform himself and will be happy again. This is our hope. Minister, thank you very much. Shukran. Allah yatik al-afi.
Thank you. As you said, we paid the price of the other wars, and we don't want to pay the price of other people who are trying to do something else. Now we are taking in consideration our own interest and our own strategic objectives and our population well-being. Thank you very much.
Shukran.
Shukran. Gracias.